Okay, we're going to move on to part four. Part three was the reflection of sound. Now we're going to talk about refraction of sound. Let me dismiss my image so it doesn't mess up the PowerPoint. So refraction of sound. Here you can see the. We said earlier that the speed of sound is temperature dependent. Well, in the case where you have warm air on the surface and cooler air above, it will cause the sound waves to move upward. You can see they move upward and they miss the little sleeping dog. In the case where you have cool air um, below and warm air on top, it's going to cause the waves to move downward. And you can see that goes right to the dog. The bending of waves is caused by changes in speed affected by wind variations and temperature variations. You remember, the sound is just air molecules, so the air molecules are certainly affected by wind, and they are, as we've discussed in the past, affected by temperature. I think it said it was a 0.6 meters per second increase for every degree. I think they go right to a little quiz. When air near the ground on a warm day is warm more than the air above, the sound tends to bend. Well, we just looked at it. If it's warm down here and it's cool up there, it moves upward. So the answer is upward. Sound traveling in the warmer air near the ground travels faster than the air above. This causing the sound waves to bend upward. It should be thus, I think. Thus causing the sound waves to bend upward, much like a cart would turn toward a side with slower moving wheels. Okay, in the evening, when air directly above a pond is cooler than air above, the sound across a pond tends to bend downward. So sure, sound downward. Sound from across a lake is heard more easily at night because the sound waves directed upward and over the lake are refracted back downward. Ultrasound scanning. These are examples of reflection and refraction. The device sends high frequency sounds into the body. Waves reflect more strongly from the exterior of the organs, producing an image of the organs. It's used instead of x-rays by physicians to see the interior of the body. The example they show here is a little sonogram of a fetus, a little baby in the womb. You can see, you can see the babies move. We used to use it as a what they call non-destructive testing. If you let's say you have a bridge and you want to test the soundness of the bridge, well, you could tear down the bridge and see if there's any cracks in it, but of course you ruin the bridge. Instead, what we would use would be ultrasound, where you might put it. These concrete bridges have metal reinforcement bar, rebar, what we call rebar, and you can put it on the end of the rebar and look and if you get knowing about how long the rebar is, you should expect a particular reflection. Well, if the reflection is shorter, you know that there may be a break in the rebar. So that's one of the ways it's used. You can they have when I had I had a Doppler sonogram on my heart, where they were looking at my arteries, and you could see you can see there was even, they're using ultrasound, but you can see there was a red shift and a blue shift. And I asked I think I may have told this story already. I asked the technician, does that indicate that one, the blue is coming towards the detector and the red is away from the detector? And he looked surprised that I knew that. I told him I teach physics. Anyway, let's see. Dolphins emit ultrasonic waves to enable them to locate objects in their environment. They use a series of ultrasonic chirps to echolocate. Bats use their high pitched screeches to find moths and bugs that they're going to eat at night. And that's the end of part 4. We'll stop it